wanted to come on and share with you my reasons for buying barefoot shoes. So why I've gone on a minimalist shoe journey and decided to swap over all of my conventional normal shoes over to barefoot ones. Also my personal experience so far, the research that I did before embarking on this journey, and hopefully some tips and advice for you if this is a concept that you're new to or something that you're interested in. Hi, welcome back to Red Curl Vegan and thanks for joining me in today's video. If you're new here, my name is Meg. If you've already visited my channel, then you'll know that I've been making lots of barefoot shoe videos recently. I've been purchasing multiple different pairs and reviewing them all and unboxing them with you. But today I wanted to do a video that's a little bit more technical or theoretical, so to speak. And I wanted to share with you my reasons for buying barefoot shoes. So my journey started back in the beginning of July when I bought my first ever pair, which was a brand new pair of Primus Trail FGs. Now I got these from the main Vivo Barefoot website. My partner also got the same pair, and I did a video about my first week in barefoot shoes. So 4 months down the line, is that right? Yeah, June, July, August, yeah. I think it's about 4 months now I've been wearing barefoot shoes. I have occasionally worn conventional shoes in that time, and that's purely been because I haven't found replacements for them yet. Other than that, I've only been wearing barefoot shoes. So I wanted to share with you today, I guess, my reasons for making such a big leap and transitioning to such a new lifestyle. And hopefully these things can help you if you're interested in barefoot shoes yourself, or if you're at the start of your journey and you're wondering whether it's the right thing to do. I'm hoping that what I share with you today of my own personal experience can be helpful. So let's get right into the video. So the first thing I'm going to start by saying, small kind of disclaimer, is that I'm not affiliated with Vivo Barefoot in any way or any barefoot shoe brand. They're not sponsoring this video. They haven't sponsored any of my videos. I'm just an average human being who is on a barefoot shoe journey, sharing my personal experience with you. And of course, I'm not a medical professional either. So everybody's journey will be different, and everybody's individual tastes and experiences will also differ. So I just wanted to start by saying that. So I guess to start the video, the most important thing would be to talk about the characteristics of barefoot shoes. So I've got a pair here just as an example. I've already reviewed these in a previous video, which I will leave a link up for above and down in the description box below. So these are the Vivo Barefoot Fulham boot. So they are Chelsea ankle boots. And I just wanted to start with the characteristics, which tends to be 4. So the first characteristic is that they are zero drop. So the height between the back of the heel, where the heel sits, and the front of the foot, where the toes sit, is even. It is flat. So there's no raised heel, there's no kind of slanting. For example, let me just show you a conventional pair that I have here. You can see that these aren't zero drop. So there's a big thick heel here, and it goes down at a bit of a slant here. The second characteristic of a barefoot shoe or minimalist shoe is that they're very, very flexible. So as you can see, they twist around, they also roll up, which is signature kind of thing that I like to do in my videos. I mean, the fact that you can do that with a pair of boots is pretty amazing. Whereas got another conventional pair here, for example, there is a bit of flexibility in them, but the soles are very rigid. The third characteristic of a minimalist shoe is that the soles are very thin. So similarly to being zero drop, they're also very close to the ground. As I just showed previously with these conventional mainstream ones, they aren't close to the ground at all. And adding to the fact that they are rigid soles, it means that there's no direct natural contact with the sole of your feet and the floor beneath you, or the surface that you're walking on. And then finally, the fourth characteristic of a barefoot shoe, the one that was the most noticeable to me to begin with, was the toe box. So the width of the toe box. You can see that barefoot shoes have a straight side where the big toe is, and they have a nice rounded side on the little toe side, if that makes sense. So it allows for the little toe to spread, it allows for all the toes to spread naturally, whereas a conventional pair of shoes, they go into a point on both sides, into a V at the front, which I say this in all my videos, that is not the natural shape of our toes. So that kind of narrow, restricted toe box encourages things like bunions, and it causes our toes to scrunch together and eventually overlap, which I'm already starting to notice in myself, even in my early 30s. So that was a big reason for me. So one of the things that I wanted to see whether barefoot shoes would help is with regards to circulation. So I've mentioned in previous videos how I unfortunately suffer with really bad chilblains in the winter. Now, I don't directly know why this has started in the last couple of years, because I've been back in the UK, so in this climate for I think 8-9 years coming up to now. I used to live abroad previously in warmer Mediterranean climates, so I don't really understand why my chilblains have developed in the last couple of years. I'm wondering whether it is to do with my lupus. I've mentioned this in the past on my channel that I have cutaneous lupus, which is the skin form of lupus. So I don't know whether that's related, but something that I really wanted to see whether barefoot shoes would help me with is my circulation. And I did research on this. There wasn't as much research on circulation as to the other benefits of barefoot shoes, but it kind of really made sense to me. Now, I don't necessarily have evidence of that yet, but my chilblains are already present. We're coming into November now. By the time this video goes up, it will be well into November, possibly the end of November, and I already have some chilblains forming, and they're really painful, and I really hate them, and they really affect my confidence. Now, it's not that wearing barefoot shoes over the last 2-3 months has necessarily prevented them, but I don't think that they're getting worse. And to be honest, like I say, my barefoot shoe journey only started at the beginning of July, so I don't think that's enough time to judge, and part of that journey was during the summer, so I didn't have any anyway. But the science and the kind of theory behind it makes sense to me. So the fact that you have a wider toe box, the fact that you have thinner soles, more flexible soles, and that you're closer to the ground, so the 4 characteristics of a barefoot shoe or a minimalist shoe, to me, it kind of makes sense that that would help your circulation, because by being closer to the ground and having more room for your toes to spread, and also allowing your muscles in your feet to work and not be lazy, which is what conventional shoes do, I feel that that is, whilst it's training your muscles, so to speak, and it's strengthening them, there's more movement in them, and so therefore there's more circulation. So to me, that completely makes sense. Whereas when your feet and your toes are crammed into a narrow mainstream shoe, you know, there's not enough room for the toes and the muscles in the feet to move around and work because they become lazy. There isn't, you know, an increase in circulation because the foot is kind of immobile, so to speak. So I hope that makes sense. So that's not something necessarily that I can see proof of yet, but they aren't getting worse, so that's promising to me. So are there any downsides to barefoot shoes? So far, I will say that in my most recent video that I did about my Gobi high boots, I did mention about the fact that I have had to trial and error, so to speak, quite a few pairs before finding the right fit for me. So I guess you could class that as an inconvenience, because it, you know, involves a bit of time and effort waiting for the sizes to come in and trying different sizes and sending them back. I think the other potential off-putting side to it is that they are very expensive. Now, I will be completely honest, and I always intend for my channel to be very real and a true representation of myself and my life. I will be honest that I have kind of questioned at some point, you know, why are they more expensive when there's less material? And I've seen people comment about this on videos, you know, and online on social media. Why are we paying more for a minimalist shoe when it contains less material? And I will be honest, I still kind of ask myself that question, but I think the fact that they're just generally more comfortable the instant you put them on, I think that it makes a lot more sense. I feel that my body is moving more naturally. I feel that my feet are allowed to exercise in the way that they should. I think that kind of just defends the whole barefoot shoe in itself. When I say defend, I mean it kind of just makes sense. So yes, it is a bit strange as to why are they more expensive, but I also feel that in the way the Revivo ones that I buy, I've said this in lots of my videos, all of my barefoot shoes are from Revivo, apart from my first pair, which was from the main website. So I kind of feel like that's a bit of a slow fashion element as well. It's more sustainable, you're preventing shoes from going into landfill, and it's also just really good that they're being refurbished and, yeah, not wasted. So in a way, I'm prepared to kind of invest money in a company that supports and advocates for that kind of thing and is more sustainable in general, and I like their ethos, rather than buying mainstream conventional high street shoes, for example. So I guess that kind of leads me on to talking about, are barefoot shoes a 100% replication of barefoot walking? So they're not, but my personal opinion is that they are 95% better than wearing conventional shoes. So with all the characteristics that I just mentioned, the zero drop, the thin soles, the flexibility and the wide toe boxes, and also the wider footbed as well, I think that that just automatically is providing you with a much better experience. Now, in an ideal world, we would all walk around barefoot, but in modern mainstream society, that tends to, one, not be very acceptable, and two, just not really possible. I think it's also important to protect our feet. You know, we live in an environment where, unfortunately, a lot of us aren't able to walk around barefoot. I mean, if that's something that you can do, and you live somewhere where that is possible, then that is amazing, and ultimately, you know, that would be my goal, would be to move somewhere like an eco community, for example, which is one of my goals, and be somewhere where you're surrounded by people that walk barefoot and where it's more acceptable and it's also safe to do so. So I think that's important to note, is that whilst the ideal scenario would be to be entirely barefoot, I think that this is a really good way to get as much of the benefits of barefoot natural shoe walking, if that makes sense, as you possibly can. So it's already going to be miles more healthier than wearing conventional, narrow, thick-soled mainstream shoes. So what are the downsides to wearing conventional shoes? Well, obviously I just pointed out the 4 characteristics of barefoot shoes, which are all benefits, and you don't get those characteristics in a mainstream shoe. But the reason for this is that the soles of our feet provide and transmit messages to our brain. So wearing a pair of shoes like this that are super rigid, super thick, not flat to the ground, and they're pretty restrictive in terms of the footbed and the toe box, means that there is no sensory feedback. There's hardly any sensory feedback. So a barefoot shoe will allow you to be more grounded. It will allow for natural earthing. You also get a better sense of your surroundings and the surface that you're walking on as well. So you automatically kind of become more mindful of the different surfaces and textures that you're walking on, and it provides like this kind of beautiful earthing experience that can't really happen with shoes like this. Now again, in the modern world, a lot of the surfaces that we walk on unfortunately are man-made anyway, so tarmac and concrete and things like that. But yeah, the disadvantage of a conventional shoe, as far as I've learnt, is that that sensory feedback isn't allowed to happen. Also, the muscles in our toes and our feet in general become lazy, and actually conventional shoes tend to disguise how hard our body is working. So in a barefoot shoe, if you've pushed your body too hard or you've got any sort of strain in your feet, it's going to be harder to recognize that in a pair of conventional shoes, because they kind of mask any problems. Whereas in a barefoot shoe, you are more in contact with the ground, you're closer to the earth beneath you, and so any sort of work where the muscles are working harder is going to be noticed a lot quicker, if that makes sense. So yeah, those were my reasons for buying barefoot shoes, and I think that those reasons kind of really apply to anybody. I started researching before I bought my first pair at the beginning of July, several months in advance. So I am a typical Virgo. I like to research everything. I'm very meticulous. I'm also a very frugal person and very mindful when it comes to any sort of purchase. So particularly buying expensive shoes like this, which I've mentioned previously on my channel, they are a luxury to me. So I've never had expensive things before. I've certainly never owned luxury shoes or clothing. So they are definitely a very special addition to my life, if that makes sense. So any sort of purchase I'm very mindful of. I like to research everything and make sure that I'm doing the right thing. Obviously, no decision is necessarily perfect, but you know, with such a big transition, it's quite a big commitment. You know, it's different if you're wanting to just try 1 or 2 pairs out, say for example for running or for sports. But if you're like myself and you find yourself a bit further down the journey and you can't really go back to conventional shoes, which I've read an awful lot of people saying, once you start wearing barefoot shoes, you can't put your feet back into conventional ones again. And I thought that that was, you know, a bit of a myth, but it is really true. Otherwise I wouldn't have so many pairs to keep reviewing. And it's, you know, it's definitely true. For somebody who is very careful with the money that they spend, I could quite easily have just kept my conventional shoes that I loved the look of. I didn't feel that there were any problems with them at the time, you know, so there's definitely many real reasons for having done this. And whilst it is a big financial commitment, I think that it really is important to do your research before you start buying them. And also I did a video on transitioning over to barefoot shoes gradually. I started doing this by walking barefoot wherever I could, wherever it was safe to do so. So I'll link that video up above as well and down in the description box for you. So go and check that one out if you're interested in how I did that. So that's really important, to do your research. I watched loads of YouTubers, you know, hopefully like myself, you'll be taking an interest in this journey and hopefully gain advice and some tips from myself like I did from other people. So there we go. I hope that you found this video helpful. I will be doing a 6-month update video on all of the barefoot shoes that I own at that time. I think by that point I'll probably be coming to the end of the purchases, so to speak. So I'll be interested to see how many pairs I have at that point, and I think a 6-month update is quite a good time to let you know how I've got on. Obviously I've been reviewing them all as I go along, but I think, yeah, 6 months is quite a big milestone, so I'll definitely be sharing a video of that with you as well. And if you think that anybody else might find this video useful, feel free to share it. Of course, if you did find it helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and also hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on new uploads from myself. Make sure to subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Your subscriptions and your comments and your likes always mean the world to me. When you interact with my channel, it really helps me to grow and it helps me to continue providing content for you, which I'm really enjoying going on this journey with you as well. In the meantime, take care and stay safe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!